Bonjour, mon chéri.
Bonjour.
All right. So, welcome to the first episode of the third space, the troisième espace, El Tercero Espacio, which is a collaboration between Casa Studio in San Miguel de Allende and French Doors, which is an art gallery in San Miguel de Allende as well. Today, for our first episode, we are welcoming visual artist Tomas Burkey. Hello, Thomas.
Hello, hello. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Thank you, and thank you for being the first guest on the show. It's a lot of emotion for me.
Me too. I'm your guinea pig.
Exactly. So as I say, we are in San Miguel de Allende. I've heard you've been living here for 17 plus years. What brought you here, and where are you from?
I'm originally from Chile. I was born into the period of the dictatorship, and born on a cattle ranch in the south of Chile. So my first memories are horseback riding. Is all I did. Hang out with the Chilean cowboys, which are called huasos. And when I was 2, I was riding horses and accompanying them when they were, in my mind I was helping them gather the cattle, but I'm sure I wasn't.
So how do you go from being in seems like a rural surrounding to becoming an artist? I've heard your mom was a gallerista, was an art dealer. Does it have anything to do with you? Where does the inspiration come from?
It's definitely inherited on certain levels. My mother was a filmmaker, video maker, and had one of the most prominent galleries after the dictatorship in Chile. My grandmother was an amazing painter, Laura Carmona. My father was a musician, and so it's just I come from a lineage, I guess. So I was born into it. I was always kind of that.
It looks like art it runs in the family blood, definitely.
Yeah.
And when did you? So you grew up in Chile, and when did you first move to Mexico, and why? And did you live any other places in between, maybe?
I was born in Chile. The first, I guess, 8 years or so. I was in Chile, 7 or 8 years. My father was from the U.S. My parents met in Haight-Ashbury, San Francisco, Summer of Love.
Oh.
And so
must have some good stories there.
Yeah, for sure. And then my grandfather had cattle ranches in Chile, and he needed help with one in particular, which was in the south. So he sent my parents to take care of that cattle ranch. So my father, from being a Midwestern guy from Ohio originally, ended up being this Chilean cattle rancher guy.
That is funny. Yeah. And so how do you, do you think how did your upbringing influence your art and you deciding to take the direction of becoming a visual artist? I know you do a lot of large installation, things like Travel Life. You're also a painter, a sculptor. How did you felt the large spaces, the landscape in which you were living, allow you to do things larger than life, and that's what you took that path?
Well, I guess it all kind of started when I was living in that ranch when I was a baby, and I got bit by a spider, and I died. And
I thought you would turn into Spider-Man. No.
I am. Be careful. I'll shoot you.
Okay.
With my web. But yeah, I think that I have memories of that experience, and I tend to talk about this because it was important for me. But yeah, I had the I saw the white light. I saw these things. I was laying on this table. I opened my eyes. There's a man standing over me. He had this gold crown, and he's looking at me and he says, "What are you doing here?" And I was so happy to be there because it was so beautiful. So I was I don't know, and didn't really say anything, but that was my expression, I guess. And he says, "Wait a minute," and he starts talking to these two women that appear also, like the White Rose, beautiful, dressed like him, and he starts consulting with them. And then at some point he says, "It's not your time. You have to go back." And that was a tough moment for me.
Lucky one we are to have you here today.
Yeah, but I was ready to go.
But actually,
And he whispered in my ear, and I feel like he programmed me. And so since I think like ever since then, I have been somebody who I'm not one of those people who are like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing here. I'm trying to figure it out. Like I always had a sense of mission, and I always had the creative ability, like since since I can remember or before I can remember. So
yeah, and even beyond that, I think you definitely like turn into Spider-Man in the sense of like growing the web, because you are one of the most gregarious, friendly person I've met in the past like 3.5 years, like living in San Miguel. You're very good at growing a network, at gathering people in your web of beauty, in your web of creation. You're involved in a lot of projects and all of that. So maybe you are Spider-Man. And can you tell me about all those? Do you have any projects like coming up like this, where you are like grabbing people in your web and like things?
I mean, for me, the visual art started when I was actually a musician. That was my first thing, was creating music, and so I started doing music. I started writing my own songs. I put a band together. I was like 11 or something, and I would draw like the album covers and things that everything that was related to that. I was somebody who's always like doodling. I'd sit in class and I'd like draw all over my pants with a marker. Like that was my main thing, and that was, so that's how I kind of got started into the visual arts, and then I went to school, whatever. Yeah, I went to school for creative and performing arts in the United States in Cincinnati, Ohio, which was one of the only schools that had that in that time, and it was like for gifted children or whatever. Mm-hmm. And
of course you're gifted, Thomas.
We
never doubted that.
You,
never doubted that.
So, and then I studied acting and theater and visual arts, and I was playing with my bands and doing my music. So I've always been kind of like multifaceted on that level. I concentrated on painting for many years as an adult.
Well, a spider does have 8 eyes, so you can see all the angles, can't you?
Eyes in the back of my head, that's right. And so, it's just, I think it's important in the arts to have a certain mastery over a certain medium. Mm-hmm. I've been playing music since forever, and I did drawing and painting a lot. Like I dedicated myself many years. I studied with once I got out of high school, I'd already had the academic forming in my life, so I didn't want to go to university necessarily for that. Mm-hmm. I studied auto mechanics and graphic
Then it feels
design.
like your upbringing was also full of like lessons, so that you really understood very well, took notes. Right. And that's the thing, is like so for music and for visual art, you even if you are talented at both, you have to take a direction. And I know in your band you're more like progressive, like rock, things like that. And in your visual art, how would you describe your painting or your in situ like visual like practice?
Painting for me is a form of medicine for humanity and for the universe. And for this is where we open doors of perception to different, and general in the arts. I think an artist should consider themselves a medicine person, not just an entertainer. So I like to do things with certain content, with some depth of content that helps not only heal but also open these doors of perception. So we can be more in tune with our surroundings, with ourselves. I think it's one of the key things of human activity, and I think it needs to be valued on that level, as a doctor is valued. Yeah. So should an artist, but an artist has the responsibility to serve the arts, to really do his best and be professional in what he's doing, just as a doctor should.
Yeah, and like definitely, and like And it's for me, that's something that I would not have been like capable of. I'm not a super people person, and I'm very intrigued on how this talent come to you. This aspiration, this we're gonna edit that part. This calling comes from like to be a healer, to be a people person, to have people in your web in the most positive way. I'm saying this, and to kind of like give them the hug of life, the hug of healing. How did you came to that?
It's a good question. I've also had a lot of spiritual guidance in my life from different people and a lot of spiritual perception. But I think, like, painting is not as much of a social activity, right? It's very kind of lonely. You're in your studio most of the time. You come out when you do shows and you have to do networking and things like that. But I think the painter's personality tends to go, so I consider myself extro introvert in that sense. But I think because my abilities and my artistic abilities and perceptions are very wide, I think that a lot of things have to be done in community. You have to be able to work with other people to get them on the same page, and it's in this form, which is working with content, with important or spiritual or just.
Well, I've witnessed you like being very much of an empath, and I understand. Well, I think I do understand how it also takes a lot to be such a giver, such a healer, and the solitude of a studio must be a way to like resource, like to like regain your strength to be able to give like so much. Like a lot of your painting, for example, have a lot of like bodies intertwined. Like I've seen that in a lot of not all your work, but a lot of your work, and I don't know where I'm going with it.
So a lot of that work is in relationship to the collective consciousness. Right, so that is intertwining. So there's this how does collective consciousness work and how individuality influences that. So one of some of my most well-known work is along those lines. It came from a series I called Apparitions and Processions in the Dreamtime. So it's this relationship with the subconscious. It's a relationship with what's the mystery, what's unattainable, and it's people coming together and being entwined in this thing where they're not necessarily sure where they are or what's going on around them because they're so in their own thing and they hold on to each other. But there's always one who can see further, who can see what's going on, step outside, if you will, of that. And so that phenomenon for me is fascinating.
So before diving in the second part of this podcast and talking more about orgies and people intertwining, is there like any projects that you would like to talk about that are coming up for you? Like any cool stuff? Beside showing at my gallery, which is amazing.
I love showing in your gallery and having this relationship with you. Well, just to finish, just because you're working with deep content doesn't mean you have to take everything very seriously. So play for me is one of the important access of this, to be able to step out of yourself and your own being. And so in that is, I do a lot of public stuff. And, right now I'm working with Kent Evans, who has, the band Dust.
But Dust, when can we find you in the new year?
We're not sure yet. We're seeing. It's a project that I do. I played professionally for many years and toured and all that stuff, and I got kind of tired of it. And I realized that I just wanted to do it for fun.
Okay. Where do we find you on social media, Dust, and your personal work?
Dust and me. Dust and me.
Dust and me.
It's not it. I'm on Instagram as Tomás Burkey Marambio, which is a little complicated.
I love the name Joaquin, you know that.
Tomás Joaquin.
Yeah, I wrote a poem about you.
Thank you. So if you type in Tomás Joaquin and then see a long, weird name, That's usually me. When I opened social media, Instagram, I wasn't that interested in being known in that sphere. For some reason, I wanted to, keep
I'll
more
make sure
close.
we like post it on the page with all the link to your social media. All right, thank you so much. We're gonna take a little music break, and we'll be back with a sexier interview about Thomas' first time.
Oh yeah, baby, can't wait.
What's your name? Do you want a man? 'Cause that's exactly what I am. So give me your hand. You better nail me down. 'Cause guys like me, they get around. And so I want you, baby, but you ought to know that I get down, I get rough, I get down, I get rough, I get down, I get around. I get down, I get rough, I get down, I get rough, I get down, I get around. Honey bee, in your honey tree, I treat you like a queen. I'll be your daddy, don't you see? So honey, stick with me. I get around, and so you better nail me down. I said I want you, but you know I get down, I get rough, I get down, I get rough, I get down, I get around. I get down, I get rough, I get down, I get rough, I get down, I get
All right, we are back on this very first episode of The Third Space, a collaborative podcast between Casa Studio and French Doors Art Speakeasy in San Miguel Day. And with our very first guest, Chilean artist and Spider-Man.
Baby, break me in.
Gregarious man, healer of whole thing, Tomas Burkey.
Yeah.
All right, so Thomas, so for this second part of the interview, I wanted to have kind of a formatted scheme for the interview and do something a little bit different. So for you especially, I've thought about asking you, and I want short, fast-paced answers, but I want I want like the dirty details sometime. On some
You
of your
just want the dirty parts.
yeah, I do want the dirty parts. So I'm gonna ask you about your first time in a lot of things. And my first question is, who was your first idol?
My first idol. That's a great question. I'm not an idol person,
Yeah.
but the first thing that comes to mind is maybe Prince. I think was very influential for me as a kid.
How about your mother? I will tell her.
My mother is still my idol, and I adore her. And yeah, I've had quite a few, I guess, people that I look up to. But
I like Prince. This is the guy who like shop in your girlfriend clothes, steal your girlfriend, and leave with the clothes of another girl, and you say thank you.
there you go.
Yeah, sexiest man alive. Dead actually, but you are the sexiest man alive now. That's good.
That would
Okay.
be nice.
We're gonna like dive into like maybe like start with like darker thing. Like, so what was your? Do you recall your first hangover? Like a bad
Yes,
one.
it was terrible. it was horrible. It was the worst ever. I was a kid still. I was a pre-adolescent, maybe 11, 12, 13, around there. And we broke into my father's cabinet and got wasted with my friend. And he was like, he was just one of those crazy friends. And we ended up like on the street, like in the winter, and like
Where was
throwing
that?
rocks at this guy's house that we didn't like, this old man, in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Oh,
And we got arrested.
oh.
And we got taken as little kids. We were wasted. Right.
Oops,
And
oops.
so my father came to pick us up and took us back home, and it was terrible because I had my room in the basement because I had a studio in the basement. And I'm like puking in my bed while I can hear my father yelling at my friend all night and all day. It was insane.
Oh
So-
no! And does this align with your first moment of anger or not?
I was too hungover to be angry.
Okay, I get that. Okay, next one. Next question. Tell us about your first kiss and tell me you wish it was me. No, just kidding. What was your first kiss?
That it was my first kiss with you.
You wish it was.
Let me think. I think my first kiss was a girl in school, and we had this vibe. And then after school, she comes out and she just plants me this huge kiss. And what I most remember, she was very sexy, very beautiful. But I remember she had this giant tongue, and that was very impressive to me.
I like that. And would you call it as well as your first moment of bliss, or have you felt bliss before? Like you were talking about the experience with the spider and like seeing the end of a tunnel before. Was it your first moment of bliss was the kiss, or more like the getting bit by a spider thing?
Neither were very blissful because I think the kiss was awkward because of the size of the tongue. But the first moment of bliss is a great question. I think it might have something to do when I was introduced to Buddhism, also as a pre-adolescent, and learning to meditate, and I think that was wonderful. I had a crush on my first babysitter, my maid.
Oh.
Yeah, her name was Luz, and just being around her was blissful, I think.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah, it was a beautiful woman.
I like that. The sense of like motherhood, like nurturing kind of thing.
Yes,
like
I
that.
have a relationship with the femme. Yeah, very powerful.
What was your and there's the question. What was not your first artwork you created, but or you can tell us about this, but I would like to know the first artwork you sold and you were like, that's it, I'm a professional artist.
Huh. I guess two different questions because my first piece of art that I remember, I think it was doodling in my room, my studio, but also in art school I did a self-portrait of me sitting on this flying couch and this flying carpet, and it was beautiful, and I thought it was fantastic, and I was king of the world, and I was magical, and that's kind of how I saw myself then. As far as my first sale, let me think about that. I think it was a show that I did in Universidad Católica in Chile. It was a group show, and I was doing some very large landscapes, and somebody bought a piece, and I was just like, wow, that's ridiculous. But I had already decided.
Why would you think it
to-
would be ridiculous? You're extremely talented. That make your art makes sense, at least well to me and to that guy apparently.
Yeah.
Really made sense. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I just felt very appreciative, and especially because I had already decided that that's what I was going to do.
Yeah.
You know,
When was the first time you decided that's what you were gonna do?
as far as painting goes, because like I said, I was always in the musician ways. Painting when I became a father.
Oh,
That was in 1993.
I wasn't born. No, yes, I was.
Barely.
I was born. I was born in 1987, but yeah,
Yeah.
not far apart from your
So
daughter.
that was when my daughter was born, and I was getting in the trouble before that. And when she came around, it straightened me out,
Mhm.
and I said, "This is what I have at hand. I know that my path is going to be the arts," and then I had my grandmother who was a painter, my mother was a gallerist, so it just seemed like a natural thing, and.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, this is something I can do that's concrete, that which is kind of ridiculous if you're thinking about painting, but as how it goes with markets. But yeah, that's when I decided that's what I had to do, and that's why I consider myself that I became a professional painter in that moment.
Okay, and last but not least, before we take another break on our little podcast, your first orgy. Was it with like painting tubes or was it with people? Tell us about it.
Yes, all of the above.
All of the above. And any names you want to drop on the San Miguel?
Definitely don't want to drop any names on that one.
All right, thank
But
you.
I've definitely done some interesting things, of course, as a good painter should, on my canvas.
As part of the job, apparently.
That's right. It's part of the exploration.
All right, thank you so much. We're gonna take a little break, and then we're gonna get to the part 3 of this podcast, which is a very creative part, and we have some surprises for you. All right, give us a minute.
Wake up at noon. I put on my shoes. I put my blue jeans on. Along came the day I had to be a man. I had to say, hey, Mama, today's the day I folded up my blues and put my blues away. Tonight I won't go out. Tonight I want to stay. And I want to spend my time with you, so I'm not wearing them. And as I left the bedroom and closed the bedroom door, when I saw two legs wearing denim blues standing on the floor, and she said, I want to dance.
All right, we are back for the third part of this podcast, and we have a little surprise for you, Thomas. So first, I want you to tell us, alive or dead, or you or someone else or whatever, be creative, please. What is your most relevant, significant work of art? Something that like really transformed you, transform your vision of art and your approach of it.
There's so many, it's hard to count, of course. But, I think personally, a piece of painting that has, I thought was important in my transition and my growth as an artist was The Dream of America, which I painted in New York in the early 2000s. And it was a big, mural-sized work. I did in a small studio in Soho. And it was, I think there was a couple interesting things. One was technically, I was painting what I wasn't going to paint. And so I would do the whole painting and say, this is what I'm not going to paint. And then I would put a circle around a piece of it and then paint a whole nother painting on top. And I did this 7 times, 8 times, whatever, and it became this beautiful piece that had to do with the dream time, but the dream as how we project ourselves in many ways. So I called it The Dream of America, and it was a shift in the dream. It was because it was what it was not, And I think that was related to my consciousness in relationship to the paradigm of the social paradigm and the change of paradigm that we're going through now. Mm-hmm. So that was very important for me.
Do you think it was like maybe a vision of what's happening now?
Oh, it's absolutely. And I can tell you about a painting, another when I was living in New York that my mother sent me.
Which year was that?
This was early 2000s, so yeah, from like 2001 to 2007, around there, so 6 or 7 years. And my mother sent me a painting when I was in New York. I moved there after the towers had fallen. And she sends me this painting, and I received this package. She never sent me packages to New York. I get one package. I open the package, and it's this painting on cardboard, and it's a cityscape of New York. The Twin Towers are coming out of the cityscape. There's flames and souls emanating from the towers. There's a Muslim temple next to it, and these figures. And then I realized I had painted that in 1996. So, and in the 90s, I was painting a lot of like the prophetic works, things that were just coming out, and I could see like in the future my own life and other things. And it's just like sometimes you hit this frequency, and it was very interesting. As far as other artists that influenced me, I always had a big affinity with Goya. For me, he was the first he's the one who introduced psychology in big ways because he painted people as they were.
Yeah.
And
One of my all-time favorite Goya, definitely.
Yeah, me too. I think it's fantastic. And what was the painting that was what's it called? The dream of reason creates monsters. You know, and that was not a painting; it's an engraving. Beautiful piece, but
Crazy how this kind of like, well, I know the painting, but and the title and what all of it implies,
Right.
how it resonates so strongly with the zeitgeist of today. You know what I mean? Like old masters sometimes like have this like of clairvoyance, like you do have, I think, in your work very much.
absolutely.
Like for the Dream of America, or like when you're talking about like that's a sign of like an amazing artist. And
Thank you.
so I love you so much. And we
I
did
love
have a
you.
little surprise for you. So I ask you to give me five songs or sounds of you choosing.
Sounds, right.
Yeah, sounds or songs to create your dream track, kind of like the dream track of your life. So you told me you wanted the sound of monks meditating intertwined with the scream of a quetzalcoatl.
Quetzalcoatl.
Yeah, you wanted the sound of your soul thundering. I'm not sure what this is, but we have here an amazing producer who has for you a couple of ideas of what it sounds like.
I can't wait.
Orgasmic bliss, such as you would expect from the from the Master Spider-Man intertwining people in your web, like we explained before. And the last song you gave me was the song. Youth are getting restless, bad brains, and you wanted the live version especially. So to finish this podcast, thank you so much, Thomas. We're gonna listen to this, which is the soundtrack of your life. And thank you for being with us for this first exercise, for this first episode of the third space, el tercero espacio, le troisième espace. And yeah, thank you
Yes,
again.
Thank you so
very
much. Keep an eye out for my work that's coming out. You know, whether it's painting, music, installation, or projection mapping, theater, multimedia theater. I consider myself a multi-dimensional artist. Is how I title myself. If that resonates with anybody. But thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure and an honor, and I look forward to this podcast. I think it's going to be amazing because this is what you do. You bring amazing people together, and you're an amazing person. So thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. And here's the soundtrack of your life. Okay, thank you for listening to the third space. This was our first podcast with guest Tomas Burkey. The music selection and the dream track was done by our friend producer Santo at Casa Studio in San Miguel de Allende. Both tracks were by the Sharpies, which is a band Tomas Burkey is part of. This podcast was presented by Casa Studio in partnership with French Doors Art Speakeasy. And thank you for listening, and we're looking forward to welcome our next guest, Sophie Henvold, in a couple of weeks. Thank you.